We have come to the end of the week of evidence from the undercover officer Carlo Soracchi, who, using the cover name Carlo Neri, infiltrated the Socialist Party, No Platform Anti-Fascist Network, and a number of other anti-fascist groups. He deceived 3 women into intimate sexual relationships, including Donna McLean and Lindsay, who we heard from last week. The last little section was just the Rule 10 questions. These are further questions from the lawyers for the rest of the co-participants at the inquiry. There wasn't anything especially groundbreaking, particularly in amongst it. There was a bit of clarification. There were some names written down of the officers who were him and his ex-wife socialized with. There was some clarification about the fact that he'd signed those notes that the Operation Hearn investigation had made about him, that he claimed misrepresented what he'd said. I'm joined off camera by Alison, who, one of our most popular guests. What did you make of what we heard from Carlo Soracchi, both today and all week?
What do I make of it? He's another liar, isn't he? He's another professional liar.
Yes.
Very skilled.
Very.
Lied to Operation Hearn. Says it was because it was an informal conversation.
Yeah.
And then what I enjoyed was David Barr cornering him into saying, "So do you lie easily in informal conversations?" Yes.
I mean, he said, "Are you the kind of man who considers it acceptable to lie during an informal conversation?" He asked it 3 times. He didn't drop it. He didn't change his wording before. Carlo Soracchi had no option but to just accept that, yes, he is that kind of man.
Yes, he is that kind of man. And I mean, I don't know what to say about any of them, really. I mean, despite everything, I still feel quite kind of naive, trusting and gullible in some ways, because when you're listening to them and you're listening to him, you have to remind yourself you're lying, aren't you? Because it is very easy. He's easily believed. Do you know what I mean? It's like, and I think something Charlotte Kilroy said to me after Jenna's evidence, it actually sort of doesn't matter what he says because he did what he did.
Yes.
And I think that's true for Soracchi because he did what he did. And he can try to, the other bit this morning, where he basically, you may have already talked about this, where he was throwing his lawyers under the bus and the Police Federation.
Yes.
He says, they told me to say that in Operation Hearn. They advised me. I just followed the advice of my lawyers. What, to lie? Your lawyers told you to lie? So there's a lot of throwing under the bus. I'm sure we're going to see more of it as the inquiry moves on. But I suppose what I'm enjoying, and I think some of the women involved in our campaign are enjoying, is that we're seeing the evidence of the things we've been saying for years. They're professional liars. They operate like a gang. Their priority is to protect themselves. They talked about women. I mean, it's come out, hasn't it, in the Operation Hearn interviews? They talked about women as inanimate objects rather than as people, as what's or its rather than whose or she's.
The very definition of objectification.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, it's, people criticize the inquiry and it is clearly a very flawed process. But actually, I really feel we have to hold on to the wins and celebrate those wins
100%.
and really acknowledge how much is being exposed. People also sometimes say, it's a shame that these officers aren't facing sort of punishment. They're not being punished or they're not being, there's no justice. But I'm not saying it's enough, but there is certainly some punishment here happening.
Yeah, absolutely.
It is punishing. The questioning by Barr is punishing.
Very much, yeah.
The kind of, Mitting didn't thank him at the end. Which...
Quite unusual, quite big, that really. I mean, it's kind of normal. He's even thanked officers who were compelled to give evidence. We don't know if Soracchi was compelled or not, but he didn't thank him.
He thanked Jenna for his final day's evidence,
yes,
didn't he? Thank you for today's evidence,
yes,
which he chose to believe. I'm not sure how true it was. I mean, the other thing that, again, I think we have to hold on to, and I hope the inquiry will bear this in mind, as we move through further officers, they have to say they loved the women, or at least they cared about the women. They've all said it. Bob Lambert said it. James Thompson said it. Jenna said it. Soracchi's now said it. They have all said that they cared about the women that they had relationships with, that in their eyes these were simply affairs, and they treated the women well and they cared about them. And we just have to remember the reason they have to say that is because the CPS have said it's genuine. That's their defence, basically, genuine feelings. And the counter argument to that as well is it's really irrelevant what you felt. You shouldn't have been doing it. It's like, you know, and I know we've used this example before, but like if a paedophile was in a trial, would the defence be, well, I really loved the 14-year-old girl that I was raping? I mean, shut up. It's not a defence. So, you know, anyway, there's that. And then the other thing which I need to dig up, or we need to dig up, is that clip where I think yesterday, I mean, the days are all a bit of a blur, but I think it was yesterday where Soracchi was asked about if it was an offence to have sex with members of the public, would it have deterred you? And he said, yes, it would have deterred me. So again, that's another kind of one of the campaign aims, is to make this illegal, because, you know, why are we still involving ourselves in this campaign? Partly to get answers, but essentially to make sure it doesn't happen to any other women again, and to call out the completely disproportionate and unnecessary spying on completely, you know, democratic process, completely legitimate democratic process.
100%. Just picking up a couple of things that were said in the final section, the Rule 10s, and we saw a couple of examples where the allegations of violence against his target group that Carlo Soracchi made. We had some very spurious suggestions about Dan Gilman and Frank Smith. Both the allegations of violence that he made were made during this week. It turns out he didn't make those allegations whilst he was deployed. They didn't feature in any of his reports. He's already said about the incidents of Dan Gilman supposedly slapping somebody in Slade Green, an event he reported on but didn't mention this slapping. That Dan Gilman denies it, and that seeing he didn't see it, would he withdraw it? And he was like, "Oh well, I guess I'll have to." Really, I mean, it was shown that it was a completely like a nonsense. I mean, this is the only allegation of violence he had against someone who he's made out to be, you know, responsible for some very serious violence. There's been no evidence whatsoever. I mean, this is someone he was close to for about 5 years, yet had no examples of any violence. And then about Frank Smith, again, had to, you know, like climb down significantly. He didn't mention his reports at the time. And we're really seeing this again and again, this exaggeration of perceived risk that these people they were reporting on were violent, yet they weren't putting it in the reports at the time. They've come up with a cock and bull story whilst they're being on the stand when they're under pressure, and then they've had to withdraw it.
Yeah, it's the same with Andy Coles.
Yes,
he did the same. And I remember I think it was Barr then saying, you didn't have that in your witness statement. You can't start pulling stuff out when you're like up there that isn't in your witness statement, that there's no report for, but they are doing that again and again.
It's because they're feeling the pressure, because as you say, it is punishing.
It is punishing.
I mean, Barr, a couple of times today, he's had the bit between his teeth and he's not letting go on certain questions until he gets a full answer.
And the other thing, I suppose, about justice, like what does justice look like? And I don't know what justice looks like, but it did occur to me today that one aspect of justice might be if Soracchi's current wife watches this video, watches back some of his evidence, and realizes and understands that he has been lying to her for the last 20 years about what actually happened, and certainly for the last 10 years since this all came out in the public. Because I think, you know, we've said it before, but that is what their main driver is. Their main driver is to save face with the people who is still in their life. And they have clearly, he's one of many. They have clearly lied and lied and lied to the people in their lives who are choosing, you know, without more information. Why wouldn't you believe your husband? I mean, you would want to, of course, you know, you want to believe your husband against all these, you know, rabid lefties who hate the police. You know, that was the story that Jenner's wife was told. You know, they're just people who hate the police. They're making it up because they hate the police. You know, it's not being made up. This stuff is not made up. And the other thing is, you know, it was quite nice to see the fact that clearly the inquiry don't believe him.
I mean, I don't think any witness to what was. I mean, it's all of today. There was no breaches today. You can watch back. I mean, I think it's some of the most damning of the material. I mean, it's very clear the man has lied consistently, repeatedly, in different ways. I don't think anybody can believe someone like that. Someone who admits that he's a liar, that he's someone who doesn't, you know, if he's not under oath, he's bound to lie, and under oath, he's clearly lied and contradicted himself so many times.
Well, he's under oath. He's saying, I can't remember.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, he's
also contradicted himself. So one of them's got to be a
Yes.
lie, you know.
Yeah.
So you know, I mean, at
But
some
as
point,
Jenna said, I'm in the business. We are in the business of deception.
right?
You know, they were trained. They were chosen and trained, and I just, you know, this idea as well that Boiling did as well, that it's been terrible for them. You know,
Yes.
the
Yeah.
whole we should really be feeling sorry for them.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, there's a lot of PhDs, potential PhDs out there, aren't there, like to be done, like analyzing the psyche of these really very sadistic, you know, sadistic, narcissistic, Machiavellian men, and it is men.
Yeah,
and
it
they are,
is.
you know, they are. We know we talked at lunchtime, not lunchtime, at one of the breaks about that and the overlaps with the Epstein files. And
Yes.
like the way men the way men talk about women when women aren't there.
And I think there really, I mean, like, I don't want to get too deep into the whole thing with these Epstein files, but I think there is something about these men getting the opportunity to have a little taste of what the ruling class kind of have all the time. You have your dark playground. You can go and have a few years of behaving with no consequences, like the billionaires do every day of their lives.
Yeah, no, dark playground is exactly it.
Yeah. It's been a long week.
Hey, can we have some lunch now?
Yes, go and have some lunch. Just quickly though, we'll be back again next week. We've got another full week of evidence. It will be civilian witnesses. We start on Monday with Guy Taylor, followed by Chris Nyam, Noel Douglas, MT, who are all activists who were spied on by the undercover officer HM118, Simon Wellings, and then Patricia Amini de Silva, who is the sister of Jean-Jacques de Mendes, who we saw reporting about the Brazilian who was murdered by the Met Police in the case of mistaken identity, believing him to be a suicide bomber. It'll be another very intense week, I'm sure. Please tune in for that if you're able to. I'll be doing the videos as I always have, and if you're able to come along and watch proceedings, you can also join me doing these recap videos in the breaks. Please like, share, and subscribe all these videos. We'll do a recap of the week over the weekend. But apart from that, is there anything else you'd like to add?
Nothing to add, but well done, Tom.
Cheers, comrade. All right, thanks for joining us. I will see you all again on Monday. Bye for now.